episode 13, The Gauntlet. And in our last episode of Supergirl, Kelly had put her foot up everyone's ass and told them about themselves and checked them on their superhero privilege. So, of course, in this episode, we barely see her at all. She's actually going to deal with, you know, the fallout of the whole situation with the building and with all the people, you know, crashing down and everything. And she's trying to help Orlando on the road to becoming a council person so he can be a champion for the people, since the white girl got arrested in the last episode. And I would not be upset if we got an 8-episode Guardian spinoff, letting us know what Kelly actually does in the mean streets while the rest of the Super Friends are off like dancing in the clouds. So, but in this episode, Lena came back. You know, she came back to help her friends. And then she's like, oh, I couldn't resist, you know, not being away from my friends. And of course, she doesn't tell them about the whole magic thing because, again, Lena doesn't like magic. She hates magic and she doesn't believe in magic. She believes in science. So, you know, she doesn't tell Kara about what happened when she went down to Ireland, but she was just like, I just want to focus, you know, on helping you guys stop Mixley. So, like, that's what she's going to do, and she's going to help join the Super Friends. Lena and Kara ended up going to the Fortress of Solitude. And they went to go ask, you know, like the computer, Calyx or whatever, you know, like questions and questions and information about the totems. The holographic image was a holographic image of one of the witches. And, you know, she was basically giving them the information about the magical totems. I mean, there used to be 3 of them. I don't know why we couldn't get that pretty Indian girl back, but, you know, but I do like the fact that they did choose this one because this particular woman, like, she did have the dramatic effect and she sounded like a cackling witch, which was kind of funny. So she told them all the information they need to know about the totems. She even said that when you go after the totem, you have to pass a trial in order to prove that you're worthy. She said that the totems must be found in a specific order. And, you know, once you pass the trials, it'll lead you to the next one and the next one and the next one. She said that over the course of time, these totems may have taken the form of an item that references what they're about. And she said that the first one is the totem of courage. So they ended up doing a computer search and they got lucky because one of the totems was actually in National City. Because it's the totem of courage, it took the symbol of the slingshot that apparently David used to knock down Goliath. So the Super Friends go down to see if they can obtain the artifact. Now Mixley, her and the other dude, they already unlocked the secret to the artifact, and they went down to the museum and they got there first. So Mixley, she gets the artifact. She actually has the slingshot in hand. She's trying to figure out how to use it. The Super Friends show up, and then when Mixie holds it above her head, trying to use the power and trying to figure out, you know, like how she can obtain the power of the totem, Kara uses her heat vision. She splits the thing in 2, and then like this magical energy like dispersed into the air, and everybody who was in the vicinity was affected by it. Now earlier, William, he was being cursed out by Andrea Rojas because she was saying that she had put him on the case of trying to interview the Super Friends, and she's just like, oh, you're never there, you never get the interviews. I mean, he got like 3 or 4 interviews so far, so I don't know what she was tripping over, but she told him, she was just like, oh, where's the William that went undercover with the Spanish mob, and the William that did this? And then she was like, hell, you were undercover when you were working at Catco. And she was like, where's that guy? And then we find out he's actually having some PTSD because in last season, I believe it was last season, he got shot by Eve Tessmacher. And I do remember him getting shot, but apparently him getting shot, it sucked the courage out of him, and now he lost his nerve to be that guy who he used to be. So then Dreamer tried to help him. She gave him some information because obviously Dreamer's on the team, so she knows about the museum. She gives him a little hint, you know, a little tidbit, tells him to go down to the museum. You might say the Super Friends. So he goes down to the museum, and then he, along with everyone else who was in the museum, got hit with that energy wave, that dark matter, 5th dimensional energy wave, you know, that dispersed when Kara blew the whole thing up in half. So we later find out there's this redheaded scientist who reminds me of Barbara Gordon, and she created a weather machine that can harness the power of lightning. Her boss basically pulled her funding because he was like, you know, harnessing lightning is dangerous and I don't want you to do it. So she got, you know, she was actually at the museum when the whole thing went down, and she got hit with the energy wave too, along with all the other doctors and all the other professors and people who was in the vicinity. So all these people now got hit with the, you know, with the 5th dimensional energy wave. Everybody except Lena, because Lena wasn't there. Brainy got hit by it. Jean got hit by it. Alex got hit by it. They ended up going back to talk to the witch lady again, and the witch lady said, she was like, foolish child. She was like, why did you split it in 2? Because she said, you dispersed the energy. And then she said that now that there are 2 pieces of it, the totem is going to fight to become whole again. So Mixley's going to be allowed to do the trial. Kara's going to have to do the trial. And whoever can complete the trial first will gain full power over both sides. But she said that if you don't do it, as long as it takes you to try to like get that power, the energy that was dispersed into the air that affected everybody, all those people are going to be infected with a massive wave of courage. And that massive wave of courage will grow every single time you fail the trial. And of course, Mixley doesn't care about that, but Kara does. So then they're just like, all right, fine. You know, both Mixley, like she tries to do the trial. She goes in the trial and it takes her to the moment where her brother betrayed her, when her and her brother were supposed to overthrow their father and take over the fifth dimensional kingdom or whatever. And then it shows the moment where the father caught them. He caught him on their betrayal. He spared his son, and then he put Mixley in prison and threw her in the Phantom Zone. So in that moment, because again, like in order to pass the trial, you have to the magical voice in the totem said, you have to prove your courage in a situation where you were not courageous. And for Mixley, that meant killing her father, because after her father exiled her to the Shadow Realm, she didn't do anything about it. She basically took her punishment and got locked up. And she always wishes she would have had the strength to actually kill her dad in that moment after what her dad did to him by exiling her. So she killed her dad in the moment, and she's like, yes, I finally got my revenge. And then, after she popped out of the trial, the magical trial voice said, you have failed. And then she was like, how did I fail? And then she couldn't believe that she failed. When Kara did it, it took her to the pilot episode of Supergirl, where she had just got finished having that date, and then she saw Alex's plane, flying overhead, and the plane was getting ready to crash into, into the ocean. So, as we all know, Supergirl flew into action. She rescued the airplane, and she grounded the airplane safely. Now, what we didn't see was, after she left the airplane, she was flying through the city, and she heard a guy being robbed. And when she heard the guy being robbed, she said, I think it was either Alex or Jean. She basically said, in that moment back then, she heard somebody being robbed, but she chose to not help that person because back then, she was dressed in normal clothes. Nobody knew who a Supergirl was, and she didn't want to blow her secret. She didn't want to blow her identity. She didn't want to blow her secret identity, so she chose not to save that person. So in her mind, she felt like, I was a coward in that moment because I was afraid, to actually save that dude. So in the trial, she went to go save the person, and then after she saved him, she felt all proud and everything, like, yes, I made amends for what I did. And then she got brought back, to the tower, and then the voice was like, you have failed. And then she was upset because she was just like, yo, like, that was the moment where I was actually the most scared. She was like, that was actually that was the most cowardice moment, she was like, in my entire career. And she was like, I don't understand how me righting that wrong didn't get me to pass the trial. Now that both Mixley and Kara both failed the trial, the energy, the courageous energy got stronger, and it affected like Alex, it affected John, it affected the redhead who had made the electric device. So now both Mixley and Kara keep doing the trial over and over and over again, and both of them keep failing. And it put them to the point where there was so much energy now being pumped into all the people who got affected by it. Alex was at a point where like she just had no fear about anything, because usually Alex is smart, she's cautious, she doesn't dive in head first without a plan. There was a moment where a dragon appeared, and I don't know how that happened, but the dragon appeared. Alex showed up, and she was like, cool, a dragon, and she just jumped in and tried to kill the dragon. Jean, he was never good at expressing his emotions. So now he's all like, yes, Alex, I love your courage, go out there and slay the bees. He's out there complimenting people. He said to Kara, he was like, I love how you and Alex have grown into, into strong, like women. And then he's sitting there, he goes over to the dragon, and he was like, Mr. Dragon, sir. He's like, let me holler at you for a second. So now he's doing this whole thing where he now has the courage to speak his heart and to say exactly what's on his mind. Brainy got affected because like the biggest fear of, of a Brainiac 5 is to execute a plan without the proper calculations. So because of that, he's always like crossing the T's and dotting the I's. But now that he has the courage to not be binded by, precision, he was basically just like, winging it and guesstimating throughout the entire thing. They said Dreamer had the courage to go into the deepest dream sleep that she's ever been in. And I'm like, why didn't we get to know what happened with that? They never even spoke about that again. I was like, that sounds pretty interesting. And then William got affected by that as well. And then the redheaded girl, she got the courage to run up on her boss and take her machine back. And now she went downtown, to try to go disperse the energy and try to use her electric device so she could harness the lightning. Supergirl failed the trial again. And then this time now Mixley, she's there, like she's doing the trial. And the menagerie dude had said to Mixley, he was like, listen, maybe, the whole thing with your trial, it's not so much the courage to kill your dad, but maybe your brother. And then she was like, how dare you say such a thing? And he was like, well, didn't you say that your brother was the one who betrayed you? And then he's like, if your brother betrayed you, it's like you hated your dad. It's easy to kill your dad because you hated your dad, but it takes true courage to kill the person that you actually love. And then, you know, she was like, shit, you got a point. And then she goes back into, you know, like into the gauntlet. And then when she goes back into the thing, before she killed her brother, she actually poured her heart out and told her brother, she was just like how much it hurt her that he betrayed her and how he turned his back. She was like, you were my baby brother. Like, I loved you. I would have done anything for you. I would have died for you. And she was like, you turned your back on me. Like, you know, like you left me for dead. And then she basically just like emotionally like let him have it. And then after she came back, you know, he was like, did you kill him? And then she was like, no, I couldn't do it. She was like, but I basically gave him a good tongue lashing and told him exactly how I feel. And then after she died, then the voice said, you have passed the trial. You know, so because for her, it was all about her having the courage to speak her mind and tell her brother exactly how she felt. Because of that now, I feel like with Supergirl, because the thing that actually bothered me about this, they never gave us a resolution to Supergirl's trial. Like, we still don't know what she was supposed to do in order to pass it. And because of what happened with Mixley, I feel like with Kara, she talked about how she didn't save that person because she was afraid that she was going to, you know, like her identity was going to be taken or whatever. I think for her, she was supposed to admit that out loud to somebody or admit to herself. Like, it's one thing to go back and save the guy, but it's another thing to tell everybody like, yeah, in that moment I was a coward and I thought more about myself. And I feel like she was supposed to be humble enough to admit out loud that she dropped the ball. And I think if she would have did that, she probably would have passed the trial. But Kara kept throwing the same spaghetti at the wall, hoping it would stick, and she never passed the trial. So now her piece of the totem was actually started glowing, and it went to go head towards Mixley. Lena came up with a box that they could put the totem in, and they were trying to figure out, you know, how to stop the totem from getting to Mixley. And because Kara was just like, I can keep trying to do the trial, because if Kara does pass her trial, then she'll be able to keep her piece of the totem. But the problem with that was she said that she didn't want to fail, because if she fails, then, you know, more energy is going to keep being dispersed, and that's going to cause a problem. And I'm like, see, here you go again with the fear thing, because if she would have, I think she just needs to admit the fact that she's afraid and she'll be okay. You know, but then, like I said, she didn't do it. They got an alert that the weather device that the redheaded chick was doing was like creating tragedy downtown. So all the super friends go downtown. You know, Jean is still complimenting everybody. He actually went to the redheaded scientist and complimented her and her machine. Alex was basically like jumping in head first, and everybody was going crazy. And then at that point, Kara told Lena, she was just like, listen, unfortunately, I'm gonna need you to let the totem out of the box. And then she was like, yo, just let Mixley have it, because the witch lady said once both pieces are put back together, then it'll stop everybody from being affected by the energy, because the energy will go back into the totem. And then Kara was just like, as much as I want to try to pass the trial, and as much as I want to try to like get the totem from Mixley, she said that I need to stop this electrical storm. Like, this thunderstorm is going to kill a whole bunch of people, and Brainy, Alex, and John aren't in their right headspace, and the doctor isn't either, and I need everybody back to normal. So just let Mixley have the damn thing. So they opened the box, they let Mixley have it. Mixley put both pieces back together. You know, the super friends were turned back to normal, and then they came up with, you know, with a way, like, you know, her, like Supergirl, Jean, and Brainy like flew around the tornado, and then like they were able to stop the electricity. The doctor snapped back to normal, and everything was fine. Now, when we went back to Catco, William was talking to Dreamer again, and William had said to Dreamer that because he got hit with that wave of courage, and because, you know, for at least for 24 hours, he had got his courage back, he said that that was the boost that he needed to get him over being afraid of being shot. So now he's just like, oh, I'm back, baby. He's like, I'm back 100%. And then she's like, oh, so what are you going to do now that you got your courage back? He's like, I'm going to join the Super Friends, because since Andrea wants him to report on them so badly, he figured instead of trying to like figure out where they're going to be, he said, I might as well just ask them if I can join the group and just follow them around. And then Dreamer was like, well, that's not a good idea. But he was like, nah, he said, Kara knows Supergirl. So as long as I got Kara to talk to Supergirl for me, he's like, it should be no problem. So that's going to be his whole thing, and that's going to be very awkward going forward. Mixley now has her piece of the totem, and then now that she has her piece of the totem, she's going to use the magical, mystical energy to find the next piece of the totem. Kelly did show up again to go help Alex when the whole electrical fight happened, so it was nice to see Kelly again. And like I said, so now like that's what we're doing. It's like it's a mad scramble now. Like we're going for this whole Gauntlet thing, and we need all hands on deck in order to make that happen. I'm still bummed out over the fact that we didn't get to see Kara pass the trial. So I hope we revisit this. Like, I hope there's a moment where Kara takes the item from Mixley and she has to do the trial again, because I honestly wanted to see what she needed to do in order to pass the trial. And that actually really bothered me. But I said, hopefully we'll get that resolution as the weeks progress. So like I said, so Mixley won this one. The Super Friends took an L, but like I said, they'll be back next week and we're going to go after the next totem. So that was it. And thank you for tuning in. Leave your questions, comments, and or concerns. Let me know what you thought about this particular episode of Supergirl. Let me know what you think about the totems, you know, like the race for the totems, like the Gauntlet race for the totems, and where we go from here. I believe Supergirl, you know, like I said, the show's coming to an end. This is the final season, so, you know, this is episode 13. We're probably going to stop maybe at 18 or 22 or something like that. Matter of fact, we're supposed to get a 2-hour season finale, I believe, this month, like in the month of October, so this thing's almost over, so we need to speed this totem thing up real quick and find out where everybody goes from here. I got my predictions about where everybody's going to end up afterwards, but I'll save that for a later video. So like I said, so hit me up on Twitter, hit me up on Instagram, hit me up on YouTube as well, like I said, with your comments, and I'll always respond back. You know, hit the notification bell so you get notified. Like this video, always, you know, definitely give it a like. Share it if you have to, you know, like if you want to, if you think somebody will appreciate this DC TV conversation. Like I said, and also subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. So thank you for tuning in, guys. So until next time, to the next episode, take care, and I'm out this.